Alright guys, welcome back. This is the second part of our introductory class to JavaScript. Okay, so at this time we'll be making use of our text editor to write JavaScript code. Okay, but before we get started, I want to quickly, show you how I was able to work with my console, my browser console, because I was going through the video and I figured out that some of you might have issues trying to work with the console because I didn't really show you how to do that. Okay, so here it is. Okay, I clear my browser, and this is how it works. Okay, this is my console. How do I get here? Just open a new tab. Okay, type about blank so that you can get a blank page, entirely blank, no content whatsoever, no content. Yeah, so it has no content. But if I were to just use this, right click here and say inspect, you would realize that I have content here. Okay, you see this. So I wanted you to have a blank page to work on. So after that, you come to console. That means right click. After entering this URL, right click on inspect. This is the inspector. Okay, you come to console and you have your console area where you could type your code. Now this is how it works. If I declare a variable, let's name equals Amina, and I see enter, it means I have declared that variable. Okay, so I can now call it or do anything I want again. So that statement is already executed, so I can say name and I'll get Amina. Alright, then I can say let surname equals Jones. Okay, and I've done that. So this is surname Jones. Okay, so to declare or to terminate a statement, you just have to press enter. So it means that you have executed that statement. Okay, that's the right word to use. And if you want to continue, you don't want to execute immediately. What you do is you write the line, the code line. Let's say name. Let's say let's first name equals Blackie. Now I don't want to execute this statement. I want to continue on another line. What do I do? You hold down your shift key on your keyboard and you press enter. Okay, then you say let's our last name equals Victor. Okay, so now I want to execute and I press enter. So I've executed. So I can say first name, I get Blackie. I can say last name, I get Victor. Alright, that is it. So I think that should be that. Okay, so I would be leaving my console open, but we are going to write code with our editor. Alright, so I'm making use of Visual Studio Code. You can use any text editor of your choice. You can make use of editors like Atom, Sublime, Notepad++, even Notepad, your raw Notepad. Okay, if you may. But I am in love with VS Code, so I'll be using VS Code for this lecture. Alright, so you open up your editor by type, looking for it normally here. So Visual Studio Code, it's here. What am I doing? Visual Studio Code, it's here. You launch. When you launch, it opens this interface. You come to file, open folder. So you search for your project folder. Mine is located in documents, trainings, Zuri, and inside Zuri I have several folders, but I'm interested in Frontend JS. Okay, so select folder and it opens up. Okay, so yeah, that is that. All right, for the benefit of those who may not have any project folder already, you can see open file and select your location, and you can create a new folder and call it whatever you want. Let's say front end JS practical. Okay, press enter and you have that folder selected. You click open. Sorry, yeah, okay, I said open file instead of open folder. Okay, but it works. If I come back, I've already created the folder now, so I'll just come here and say open folder. Alright, so you click on that folder and click select folder, and it will open up here like this, so you can now start working. Alright, but let me quickly go back and open my folder. So I'm working with this folder, and I can now just create my files. Now there's something you need to know in case you don't know already. You can't work with JavaScript directly, as in you need to tie JavaScript to something. Okay, yeah, in the context of our class, so when you start working with Node.js, you can do plain JavaScript like that, but when you're writing a website, you're writing JavaScript for front end, JavaScript has to be tied to something. Like when you're writing HTML, CSS, it has to be tied to something, and you usually tie it to your HTML page. I'll show you how in a moment. Okay, let's go. So I can close this now. Come here, you either right click on this blank area and say new file, or you click on this icon to create a new file. So I'll create a new file and call it index.html. I'll create another file and call it app.js. to be my JavaScript file. You can see the extension .js. Okay, and that is it. Okay, so I come to my HTML, and here what can we do? Write our normal HTML code. Okay, so this is our basic HTML code. Okay, we're talking about JavaScript. I don't want to bug your mind about all this, so I'm going to get rid of them, and I'll just say JS front end. So now you know that when we want to link CSS to our page, we use the link tag, right? Yep, we use the link tag. But in this case, we want to link JavaScript to our code, so we use the script tag. Yes, script like this. Okay, that is it. This is what you use. Okay, but we're advised to put the script in our body just before the closing body tag. So that is it. Okay, yeah, as we continue, this is going to be explained to you, like why it's advised to put it here, because if you even put it inside the head tag, it would work still, but there is an advantage, and I don't want to bug your mind with that right now. Just know that after creating your HTML boilerplate, just add your script tag just before the closing body tag. Okay, script opening tag, attribute of src, meaning source. Here you provide the source of your JavaScript, and in my case it's app.js, so this is the path to app.js. You can ignore this and just say app.js, since app.js is in the same directory as index.html. Okay, but I love to add this. Okay, so let's go. Like this, I have connected this index.html file to this app.js file. Okay, so anything I write here would affect this page, and therefore we can view the result in our browser console. Okay, so that's it. Let's proceed. All right, so I can start writing codes. I'll come here and say console.log. This works. Okay, now console.log means show this message on the console. You remember the console? Yeah, this is our console. DAO. This is our console. Okay, so what I'm saying is console.log. That's on the console of this page. You know that this JavaScript ought to be affecting this page. So what we're saying is that on the console of this page, log this message. Log means to show. Okay, so log this message. All right, so that is that. Let's test it and see if it works. So I'll come here, right click, I'll open this up in my browser. So we have our JS frontend project, which is empty. Okay, we have the title here, JS frontend. I'll right click and inspect and come to my console, and you see this works. Okay, because we are logging out this message from here. Okay, so at this time I can close my index page because this is of utmost concern to us. Okay, so I would love to adjust the size of my editor and my browser. I like to put them side by side so that we can see the result as we code. Okay, yeah, so this works fine. Okay, so let's go. Open my outline and see. Okay, talk about variables. Let's go. Okay, so what I want to talk about now is the naming convention for variables. So when you name variables in JavaScript, there is a convention. So conventions are best practices. Okay, in the ecosystem or in the community, in the JavaScript community, they are generally accepted way to name variables. So you don't just go about naming variables anyhow you want. There are conventions to follow. Okay, so yeah, when you name variables, this is how you do it. Let variable name, right, equals value. So this is how we declare and initialize variables. Okay, so yeah, this is how it works. Okay, now I said declare and initialize. What does that mean? To declare is simply to say let variable name, let there be variable name. Okay, so let variable name, and you end with your semicolon. Okay, so you have declared this variable. To initialize it or give it a value is to say variable name equals value. So this is declaration, this is assignment. So you're assigning a value to it. Now you can do both of them at once, and that is what we did here. Instead of declaring and coming here to assign, you can do both at once. Okay, so that is what we did. Now back to conventions. Now while naming your variables, if the variable is going to be a single word, if it's going to be made up of a single word like name, okay, then it should be all lowercase. So let name equals whatever value you want. Okay, but if it's going to be more than one word, more than one word, yeah, so you use something called the camel case. You know how a camel is, like okay, lower then higher, like that. So that is what we did here. So the first word has to be all lowercase, then every word after the first has to start with a capital letter. Okay, so like this, let's first name. So it's not first name like this, but first name. So first is all lowercase, but name starts with an uppercase. That's camel case, and that's how we name variables in JavaScript. You can't do You can't do first dash name. This won't work because dash, this hyphen in JavaScript means minus, so it's a symbol for subtraction, so you can't use it here. It wouldn't work. So that's why you have to do first name, because it's more readable. You can do first name, it works, but you're breaking the rule. This is not readable. Okay, but first name makes it more pronounced that we have two words here. Okay, so that's simply that. You can check out the other rules in a link that will be put in the description of this video. Okay, so we'll spend a lot of time here. Let's run along. So we'll come here, variables, scope, basics. So let's go. I make a scope. This is how you can make a scope in JavaScript. And I'll see let name equals Fegiro. So I told you before that when we are in a scope, we can only access that variable inside that scope if the variable is declared in that scope. Okay, so I created a scope now using two curly braces. Open, this is the beginning of the scope, close, this is the ending of the scope. So everything in between is in that scope, right? So if I come outside the scope, notice that I'm outside the scope now. I say console.log, and I'm trying to call name, and I want it to log name for us. What do we get? We get nothing. We get nothing. You see, we get nothing. Okay, but if I take this statement, inside the scope and I call name inside the scope, I get the value Fegiro. So that is scope for you. All right. So if I have variables of the same name, so for instance, in the scope I have name Fegiro, and outside the scope I have name slick code. Okay, if I call name outside the scope, I'll get slick codes as my result. Sorry, console.log, sorry, the log, I have to do the log there. So I get slick codes. But if I call name inside the scope, you can already guess I get what Fegiro. So that's that scope. Okay, as we proceed, you are going to see us create scopes in different forms. Okay, but we won't get into that in this video. So that's that scope basically. The variable declaration, we talked about it. We can have the let first name equals Jackson. That's variable declaration, declaration and assignment together. All right, yeah, so that's it. You can use let or const. I told you before. Let's say const pi equals sorry, no quotes, because this is a number 3.144 blah blah blah. Okay, so whatever it is. So this is a variable that can change. This should not change, constant. So if we come and we say console.log first name, we'll get what? Jackson. So if I come here now and say first name equals Toyin, okay, if I refresh, I get what now? Jackson. So our console, after resetting or reassigning the variable to point to another value, this first thing now is now pointing to Toyin instead of Jackson. I can now try it out and say first name, and guess what? I'll get Jackson, I get Toyin. So at this point, at line 4, you see app.js 4 is line 4. At line 4, we had Jackson printed out when we referenced or when we called first name. But at line 7, we had Toyin printed out when we referenced first name. Why? Because at line 6, first name was changed to Toyin. That's the first name now points to Toyin. Okay, so that's how it works. Yeah, so basic data types, we covered it already. We had primitives, numbers, strings, boolean, undefined. So I want to create variables and say let best friend equals to button, as we did earlier. So I'll come here and say let k tutor equals Jeff K. Let status or say marital status equals single. Alright, but for the purpose of what I want to demonstrate here, I like to differ. I like to say single equals true. Okay, I come here and say let what are we talking about again? Boolean strings number undefined. Okay, let age, just leave it like that, it becomes undefined. So if I say console the log best friend, type, if you remember, type of space best friend, and I say console the log type of tutor, console the log type of is single, console the log type of age. I save and refresh here. I'm going to get string boolean undefined. Why? Because this is a string, you see the quotes. This is a string, you see the quotes. This is a boolean, true or false, values without quotes are boolean. Okay, age undefined because we have not given it any any value yet. Alright, so that's how it works. Changes to height. Okay, I'll say 6 foot. Okay, this doesn't work, I just say 6. So you get a number here. Okay, sorry, I'll just say height. Alright, now you get a number. Okay, so that's how it works, and the same goes for the other data types. That's the array objects and the null. So let's come and talk about arrays. Let numbers or scores equals, we use our angular brackets and we create a list of values separated by commas. Okay, so I say 5, 6, 8, 9, alright, 10 and 15 and 2.5, just like that. So I have scores and all of them are of the type number. Okay, so this is an array, you can store multiple values. Okay, so there are different ways we can work with this array, but I'll leave this for a more advanced session where we'll deal on these topics in depth. But for now, this is how to declare an array. So how do you access an array? I told you that arrays are indexed from 0. Okay, so you start counting arrays from 0. So you have 0, 1, 2, just like that. So the first value in an array is 0. That's the address, that's the index. Second is 1, just like that. So the formula is n minus 1. Alright, so that's how it works. So I can say scores, my square brackets, I can say 1. And guess what? If I console the log this, if I console the log this, you expect to see what on the console now? You could guess. 5 or 6? 6, because 5 is of the position 0 and 6 is 1. So if I say 0, you are going to see what? 5. Okay, so that's how arrays work. Okay, so I can say let best student and create an object now. So this is how you create objects. Your curly brace, opening and closing curly brace. All right, and you could take it to the next line so that you can enter multiple values. So this is the syntax. Object name, we have property value, comma, property value, comma, property, just like that. Just write number of properties and value pairs that you wish to add. Okay, in this case we want to say name is lesson. All right, age is 21. Okay, comma, I want to say class, I want to say SS1. Okay, yeah, so let me see. No, that's bad. That's bad. You can be 21 and be SS1. Okay, so I'll leave it like this. Okay, object name, let's say best student. Okay, so I can say grade, so it makes more sense now. I can say grade 4.5.0. Wow. Alright, so that's how it works. So this is an object that we have created using the curly brace, and we have entered property value pairs. So if I want to access any value in my object, I simply say object name, then I use a dot notation and say age or any of the properties. So object name dot property, that's how you access, or object name, open your square brackets just like you do with arrays, and you write your property. So I'm writing property name, but in quotes now. So this is how you can access the value. So let's do that. So in this case, my object name is what? Best student. I'll say dots. What property do I want to access? Grade. So I want to get the grade of the best students. Now, like this, it wouldn't show anywhere. I have to command it to, print out on this console. How do I do that? I do that using the console.log statement. And there you go. I have 5 because this is 5. Okay. Yeah. So I could say .age. And guess what now? We have 21, right? So the other way to access this, as I said here, is to use our square brackets and put the property name in quotes. So I remove this, I get rid of this dot now, save, and I get 21 still. I can say name, and guess what now? We get blessing. So that's how to work with the various variable data types. Okay, so that is that, and I told you about null. Null is very simple. Let's language equals null. So ordinarily I would just say let language if I don't have a value for language, and that will give us undefined each time we try to console.log language. Okay, that will give us undefined, but it's safer to just give language a value. So in case where there is no value for it, I'll just say null. Okay, so anytime I call, this guy brings null. So you might ask, so what's the reason null undefined? What's the difference? We get to know that as the class progresses. Okay, so that is that. I would like to show you one more thing before we wrap up for today. So if I say console.log Austin, guess what? Austin has never been declared in this program. It has never been created. Okay, so what do I expect? I expect an error, but it's going to say something very interesting. Austin is not defined, not defined. We have seen undefined, and in this case this is not defined. So undefined means it has been declared, but this is the product. This is a product of a variable that has no value. Okay, that's undefined. Not defined means it has never been defined, it has never been declared at all. But if it has been declared, you would get undefined, not as an error but as a result. But if it has never been defined, that's the variable you are trying to access. In this case, Austin has never been defined. You are going to get what? An error of undefined. So if I come here just before I call Austin and say let Austin equals nice. So if I call Austin now, you see Austin. But if Austin has no value, you will get a result of undefined and not an error. So that's the little difference between undefined and not defined. Not defined is an error, undefined is a result. Okay, so that doesn't make too much practical sense at this time, but you would get to understand how these little pieces come together to make sense as we progress. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you subscribe to this channel and give a feedback on this video. Thank you so much. See you next time.